What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, going over the huge amount of Rise of Iron information that has released today. Now, of course, the source for most of this information was the big Rise of Iron Gamescom reveal stream, and that is the purpose of this video, to go over all of the different information that has come out today, and also to really analyze its impact on Destiny. Now, although a ton of information in general has come out today, when going over everything for today's video, I really kind of realized, well, only one really big new thing was announced, and everything else was really just clarifying and actually getting a little bit more information on things we had already known, and just little things, new armor pieces, new weapons that we hadn't seen before. So I suppose we should go over the one new big thing, which is, of course, private matches. Destiny is finally getting private matches with the Rise of Iron. Now, interestingly enough, you don't actually have to purchase the Rise of Iron to gain access to private matches. When the Rise of Iron releases, all players on current gen consoles, so that's the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, will have access to private matches no matter which version of Destiny they have, which is of course fantastic to hear. Now, private matches is of course the ability to create a custom PvP lobby with your friends or with whoever you care to invite and host it yourself. Now, what kind of options does the host have when it comes to creating their own private match? Well, most of the options are pretty much what you would expect, when you compare it to other games like Call of Duty, which already have a functioning private lobby mode. You can select the map, you can select the different game type, all of which are available. You can select the score needed to win, you can select the number of rounds if you're selecting a game type that actually requires rounds, you can select the time of day, and so on. You can't actually get insane with the number of options you have because, funny enough, or interestingly enough I should say, you actually will get rewards for completing private matches. You'll get a little bit of Crucible reputation, around 30, and that can be impacted of course by wearing a Crucible focused class item, and you'll also actually get rewards, although they only drop up to rare weapons and armor. Furthermore, you will actually lend progress to certain daily Crucible bounties, and you'll actually be able to complete the Crucible test weapons from the gunsmith in private matches. Now, that's all actually pretty huge, especially being able to complete those stupid Crucible test weapons now finally in private mode. So that's really what's happening with private matches, and aside from the rewards, which I think a lot of people didn't expect, it's exactly what you expected when you thought private matches, were going to be added to Destiny. So what are the implications of private matches in Destiny? Well, the first big implication is of course tournaments. You have all of these extremely popular, Destiny PvP teams and players, and now they can actually play each other in proper organized tournaments, and in fact Bungie has already released its official tournament recommendations, the settings that you should have if you want to comply and be an official Bungie tournament. So look forward to big community organized PvP tournaments coming after the Rise of Iron. And of course, the second big thing is that this is just the ultimate in having fun with your friends. Being able to have your custom game modes, being able to play hide and seek on any of the PvP maps, that's now available. There is just a huge amount of options for just having fun. So this is definitely a good addition to Destiny, will vastly extend its longevity. Moving on, the next kind of big thing that was talked about today, wasn't actually revealed today, we actually did already know about this, was the Supremacy game mode. Now, if you want to know exactly what the Supremacy game mode is, it's kill confirmed from Call of Duty. It really is basically kill confirmed from Call of Duty. What happens is that it's a 6v6 game mode, and killing enemies doesn't actually get you any points. Upon killing an enemy, he will drop an orb. If you pick that orb up, you will get 2 points towards your team's score. If your teammate picks that orb up, he will get 1 point, and you will get 1 point, 2 points in total towards your team's score. And actually, if your teammate dies and you pick up his orb upon where he died, you will deny your enemy those points. So again, kill confirmed. And of course, I'm not saying this really to detriment Destiny in any sort of way. I love kill confirmed in Call of Duty, so it's about time it makes its way in some version into Destiny. And of course, the background gameplay is actually of people playing the Supremacy game mode in the stream. Furthermore, 2 of the new Crucible maps were shown off. The first one was the Floating Gardens. It is a Vex map on Venus, and the backstory to this map is that back in year 1, the developers were designing an area on Venus where the Vex would go to dump their fallen comrades in this giant pool of, they refer to it as data milk, and I don't know what that would taste like, but in any event, this kind of has come to fruition in the form of this Crucible map, so that's definitely interesting. The other map they did show off was the Icarus map. Now, this is the PlayStation 4 exclusive map, and this takes place on Mercury. It is a Warmind solar farm, and it's actually a radial map like Anomaly, but the exterior is much more open. In fact, it and Anomaly share similar structure. Now, just to kind of wrap up here with PvP, there's additional medals coming with the Rise of Iron, and additionally the first Iron banner that launches once the Rise of Iron comes out, I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming, is going to be Supremacy. Alright, now moving on, there was a little bit more information about the new strike coming with the Rise of Iron. Yes, there's only going to be 1 entirely new strike, and then there's going to be 2 remade strikes, the Sepkus Prime Devil's Lair strike, and the Summoning Pit strike. Now, the entirely new strike, the boss battle at the end, is actually going to feature 1 giant fallen captain. That's actually, well, fallen / Siva. He's actually taken an ogre's eye and attached it to the end of a gun, and he's using that gun to attack you in this final boss encounter, and the ogre is still there. So there's a blind ogre without an eye, and he's just running around with these giant like metal hands just smashing around trying to kill you as well, but he's only going to be doing melee. So that sounds like actually a pretty interesting encounter. Definitely reminds me of the Shield Brothers strike. Now moving on, we got a little bit more information about the Wrath of the Machine, the new raid coming to Destiny with the Rise of Iron. The developers were saying that the raid is basically built like you go into this raid area, you do some stuff, and your path will eventually lead outside, in fact on top of the massive Cosmodrome wall, to which you'll encounter what they said was a Death Zamboni, this giant structure that's, you know, moving along the wall, and you actually have to kind of outrun it, and it's going to force you back into the depths of the raid area. So that's a little interesting. We kind of already knew that, but I just thought I would go over it. Now moving on from that, again, a bunch of little things were revealed in the sense that we got to take a look at a bunch of new weapons and armor coming with the Rise of Iron. Now before we go over any of those things specifically, firstly, all of the information I'm going to talk about in this section of the video, I have already made a dedicated video going over all of the new weapons and armor that we saw revealed today. I would highly recommend checking that out if you haven't seen it already, because in this video I'm not going to be as thorough, I'm just going to go over the highlights. However, before we even do that, I have to mention that a new thing that has been added to the Rise of Iron is going to be impacting both weapons and armor, and it's the addition of ornaments. Ornaments are basically chromas on steroids, essentially. They completely change the look of your gun. You can see right here, we have the Monte Carlo, and then we have the Monte Carlo with an ornament added. It looks completely different. Here you can see the 2 different versions of the Hawkmoon, and here you can see what it does to armor with the Trials of Osiris Titan helmet before and of course after. So it adds really interesting new effects or completely changes the color scheme of the gun or so on. Now, how do you get these ornaments? Well, it wasn't specifically detailed. For the legendary ones, you might just earn them by leveling up, but however, you do get the exotic ornaments from Radiant Treasures, which are a new microtransactions item that are added with the Rise of Iron. Essentially, Radiant Treasures are the things that are replacing Sterling Treasures, and they're going to act very similarly. So you can earn them just by doing in-game activities, or you can buy them, and then opening one of them can award you with, you know, the Monte Carlo ornament that you see here. Then that'll apply to your Monte Carlo, and you can put it on at that point. So those are ornaments, but now let's go over some of the new weapons and armor that we're seeing. Now the highlights, of course, is 2 new exotic weapons. The first is the Nemesis Star. This is a nadir weapon, that's what all the ends are for. Unfortunately, we didn't get to take a look at what its actual exotic ability is, but we just got to see, you know, the perk tree itself and what this thing really looks like, and confirm that it is in fact an exotic. It was seen in screenshots before, but of course we didn't actually know it was an exotic. Now the second new exotic was this Siva themed pulse rifle, and you can see it here. Actually, its exotic ability is that if you get a precision shot, of course, as you can see, it creates these what are very similar to the hunter seeker grenade swarms that go and hit another nearby enemy. Moving on from there, we had a bunch of kind of official reveals of a lot of the new armor sets going to be in the game. We have the Iron Lord, kind of Iron Banner armor, and funny enough, this armor, it looks like, as you can see by this screenshot here, that you can ornamentally change this Iron Banner armor to look like this totally different and also equally, in fact, way more insane Iron Banner armor. So it's kind of like 2 tiers to what you can unlock with the Iron Banner armor, or at least that's what it appears to be. Furthermore, we gotta take a look at the new Trials of Osiris weapons and armor sets, and then we gotta take a look at the Raid weapons and armor sets. And aside from that, the one other interesting thing that was mentioned is that Bungie said that they're really expanding on the idea of sidearms. Right now in the game, all of the sidearms look very, very similar. So finally, with the Rise of Iron, we are getting some diversity here, as you can see by these screenshots I've been showing you, especially this one, which actually was shooting in 3-round bursts. Could this be a new exotic? Maybe. Could it just be a legendary? I actually hope so. I hope it's a legendary so that you can now get legendary sidearms with different firing mechanisms. That would be absolutely awesome. Now, when analyzing the impact that the new weapons and armor coming with the Rise of Iron will have on Destiny, there really only is one question we need to ask, and that question is the loot diversified? Now, what I simply mean by that is that are we going to get new gameplay experiences from the new weapons and armor that are being added in the Rise of Iron? Are there going to be new and interesting perks on weapons and armor? Is there going to be new damage archetypes finally being introduced? Or potentially new gun types, things like that? If those are being added, that's fantastic, and this DLC will really help Destiny stay relevant for quite a long time down the road. However, that might not be the case, and we could just be looking at a bunch of really cool looking reskins. That's not only possible, it's happened before, and I really hope that's not the case. However, with what we've seen in the Rise of Iron, there is hugely beneficial things that will diversify the loot system. For one, artifacts. Artifacts are really going to spice up things when they're added into the Rise of Iron. I just really hope to see the same degree of diversification that artifacts are bringing also echoed in other things like weapons and armor also being introduced with the Rise of Iron. And that was pretty much what was revealed today. The one last thing I want to leave you guys with is, if you go to your PlayStation, there's actually a new dynamic moving theme that has been added today. If you've pre-ordered the Rise of Iron, it looks like if you live in the US or Canada, you can just go to your themes and download this new dynamic theme, and this is what it looks like. So that's pretty cool. If you're on the PlayStation 4, definitely go and check that out. Now that should wrap up all of the information that was revealed today. If you guys enjoyed this video, learned something new, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you want to see more Destiny content from me, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickHackis. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good day. Now, the Cryptarch is just such a huge part of Destiny. He is so associated with the game, both in the positive, like when he gave you your first exotic out of a legendary engram, and the negative, like when he gave you blues out of your other 100 legendary engrams. But either way, he is just so strongly a part of Destiny, and that's why it's kind of sad to see him so heavily fallen from grace, become so essentially useless within the current state of the game.